Hello there, a very good evening to you and many thanks for joining us on Rwanda Television News tonight. And as we are still starting and entering the commemoration week as well as 100 days of commemoration as Rwandans, we send our regards to the survivors especially and strength to Rwandans in general. And as we start off our edition, these are the headlines. President Paul Kagame criticized a primitive and ethnic-based politics that leads to instability in the region. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa vowed to support peace efforts in the eastern DR Congo conflict. And to international matters, a Southwest Airlines flight returned safely to Denver after an engine cover fell off during takeoff on Sunday. Good evening once again, and thank you for joining us on Rwanda Television News. As we begin tonight's edition, let us inform you that on Monday at Urugwiro village, President Paul Kagame met with the former president of the U.S., Bill Clinton, of the United States of America, who led the presidential delegation designated by U.S. President Joe Biden to attend the 30th commemoration of the genocide against the Tutsi. According to the Office of the President, they had candid and fruitful discussions on the country's transformation over the last 30 years and the importance of strengthening mutually respectful bilateral relations. They also discussed regional security issues and agreed on the need for a political solution that addresses the root causes of the conflict in eastern DR Congo, which affects the whole and wider region. And to other matters, President Paul Kagame emphasizes that deliberately ignoring the root causes of insecurity and focusing on primitive politics are accounted as significant contributors to the region's insecurity issues. President Paul Kagame reiterated this stance during a press conference held earlier today in Kigali. Adam Squizera with the report.
Your Excellency, my name is Edmund.
The topic of insecurity in the Great Lakes region, particularly in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, was discussed by President Paul Kagame during his interactions with both local and international media. President Paul Kagame reiterated that deliberate disregard for the root causes of the insecurity in the Eastern DRC is what leads the international media and various Western countries to continue accusing Rwanda of supporting the M23 rebel group.
M23 is an organization born in and out of Congo. That's number one. Number two, these are Congolese. And you will hear even Congo admit it. Now, why do they exist? Why are they fighting? Why do they have arms? Is another question. It is also a simple question. They exist because they have been denied their rights as citizens of that country. They are called Tutsis of Rwanda.
President Paul Kagame also noted on some countries that are still mired in primitive politics, characterized by divisionism and discrimination.
I could not find a better word to run a society or a government on the basis of a division of tribes or ethnic groups or this, and in our case, having gone to the extreme even here in 94, as remember, it is, I could not find a better word other than being primitive. Primitive. You are not. How do you divide people? How do you practice sectarianism or racism or what? Where do we see it in history that it has served well in a society? That's what I was referring to, because we have a lot of it in the region, especially in the recent days, as we have seen. So I was not only explaining that so that people may give it consideration to avoid very huge and costly problems that are born out of it.
Members of press also inquired about the reasons and benefits of the ongoing cooperation between Rwanda and Mozambique. In response, President Kagame highlighted that the benefits extend to many countries that also have investments in Mozambique.
Maybe is related to what you might be having in mind because they have investments there, like other countries have. In fact, there are many countries that have these investments, heavy investments in Mozambique. Either these countries working together and through their companies or different ways. Where it is France, it is the United States, it is India, it is Japan, it's Korea, there are many who are there, working there. So naturally, the investments have to be made in a stable environment. And since we are there contributing to the stability of the area where these countries are making investment, we have discussions, we talk to each other. In our contribution and their investments there, we have good discussions and understanding of how we can continue to stabilize that area.
The head of state also highlighted that in the last 30 years, after the genocide against Tutsi, the government of Rwanda has implemented measures to address the internal challenges facing the country. Adam Squizera, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam Squizera. Political analysts believe that the visit of the President of South Africa, His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa, to Rwanda for the 30th commemoration of the genocide against the Tutsi can be a trigger to reviving relations between the two countries, but also to find a solution for the problem of long-standing insecurity in eastern DR Congo. President Ramaphosa also confirmed that talks with President Paul Kagame gave him a different view of the DRC conflict. The President of South Africa, His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa, is one of the dignitaries received by President Paul Kagame as he joined Rwandans in commemorating the 30th anniversary of the genocide against the Tutsi. In a press briefing before returning to Pretoria, President Ramaphosa spoke about the relations between Rwanda and South Africa, noting that it doesn't stand firm.
A relationship which, over the years, yes, has faced some challenges. He and I, from the time I became president, have always sought to find ways of straightening out the wrinkles in our relationship. And last night I had an extensive discussion with him about how we can refashion our relationship and on a bilateral basis deal with some of the issues that have to do with visas, that have to do with travel. And we believe that we are definitely going to get on the way of rekindling and rebuilding that relationship. I say rekindling because it is a relationship that is in existence. And like relationships between countries, sometimes they face challenges and they wrinkle up, and so those wrinkles will be straightened out.
President Ramaphosa also noted that after talks with his Rwandan counterpart and other leaders on the issue of insecurity in eastern DR Congo, he is of the view that a solution should be sought politically instead of war.
I leave Rwanda with renewed vigor and intention that we should find a solution that will lead to a political solution to what is prevailing here. The people of DRC yearn for peace, and similarly the people of Rwanda also yearn for peace, and so therefore all of us combined, including SADC, should work towards installing peace in this area, so that the conflicts and the violent conflicts, the displacement of people in the DRC and indeed in Rwanda should come to an end, so that there should be peace and silence the guns in this part of our continent. So that is what we are hoping and aiming for.
While addressing a press conference with representatives from both local and foreign media organizations on Monday, President Paul Kagame reiterated optimism regarding finding a solution to regional issues.
And I think we had a very good discussion, very good understanding of the situation and maybe the best ways we can work together to resolve that. I was satisfied.
Experts see the visit of the South African president as a stepping stone in regards to normalizing relations between Rwanda and South Africa, as well as a potential trigger to regional peace.
Nabwo bwasabye ingabo za SADC kuza mu burasirazuba bwa Kongo kurwana n'umutwe wa M23 uhanganye n'ingabo za leta.
SADC forces were asked to join the battle against M23 in eastern DR Congo, alongside Congolese forces. As you know, SADC forces came in November last year. We are now in April 2024, and everyone who follows the situation knows that they haven't even moved 5 meters since they were deployed. It has been clear that the issue can be solved militarily. I can say they came back to their minds and realized that a different course needs to be taken if they want to solve the problem. If they don't want the problem to be solved, the war will continue, but it will never be a solution. However, the ex-president of South Africa, Thabo Mbeki, suggested a suitable solution to the matter.
And sending troops there, then the people will die, but it will not solve the problem. So I'm very, very sorry to hear this thing that these people that died from South Africa and other African countries. It really is very important, and that's what I would say if I was asked. Let's disengage the forces. They are there already, okay. Let's just disengage them so there's no possibility of clashing. Because the clashing which is going to result in people dying for no reason. Just separate them so they are far from each other, and then work to find this political solution. And I know I'm very, very glad that indeed President Ramaphosa are very committed to this pursuit of a political solution. And it certainly assured me about that. Very, very committed to finding a political solution. I think that's very, very important. But I think any situation which results in the deaths that you've mentioned should avoid that. It's unnecessary. We're wasting people's lives for no reason.
South Africa is one of the countries with a big number of troops in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo under the SADC mission, and the question remains what will happen after these talks. You are still watching Rwanda Television News. The President of the Republic of Rwanda, His Excellency Paul Kagame, urged the international community to separate political critiques from commemorating the genocide against the Tutsi, if and when they want to stand with Rwandans, especially on April 7th.
In the press conference that brought together local and international media, President Kagame reiterated that each year, countries around the world stand with Rwanda whilst commemorating the genocide against the Tutsi, and many are understanding more on the Rwanda's dark history. The head of state demonstrated that though 30 years are down since the genocide against the Tutsi, there are still countries deliberately involving in denial and mixing this history and their own political critics on Rwanda.
In the letter we told them, feel free to commemorate with us if you want. And feel free also to tell us whatever you don't like about us. But our ask is one. When it is the day of commemoration, which is 7th of April, can you be kind enough to commemorate with us and stop there? And there are 365 days in a year. Give us that day of 7th of April, commemorate with us, and then you can have the rest 364 days blaming us every day for everything you don't like about us. Just separate these two things. Commemorate with us for one day, blame us for the rest of the days of the year. I thought it was a fair deal and a fair ask. So for me, that problem was solved that day. These others that come after and will come in the future, I have no problem.
On Rwanda and France relations, President Kagame emphasized that there's a long history of problems related to the 1994 genocide and politicians failing to be on good terms, but regardless, the relations have progressed.
Relationship between Rwanda and France is good and has been good in the recent days. Of course, behind that, there is this long history of problems relating to what happened in our country in the last 30 years. So my feeling up to now is we've made progress. But there are still people maybe in the political and other structures of France that are held back by what happened in history. They are still living politically in the past. We can only be making progress on the basis of people who want to look forward and we move forward together. So I don't know the proportions, who is this, who is that, I don't know. But to make the judgment, I think the people of France and we can work together. Sometimes the politicians are the ones that are at issue. So I heard about that, the contradictions in the settlements or this or watering down this, but that's all about it. I heard that happened, but I really, for me, I'm focused on the good things that can happen if we relate well and make progress.
President Kagame held the press conference a day after the commencement of the 100 days of commemorating for the 30th time the genocide perpetrated against the Tutsi. Prince Manzi, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Prince. 30 years after the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, survivors and perpetrators in Bugesera district attest that there has been a notable improvement in the way they relate. This progress has been facilitated by discussions and psychosocial support groups, fostering cooperation, understanding, and the healing of wounds within the Rwandan community. The president of Interpeace International Organization acknowledges that there has been advancements made, indicating positive steps towards reconciliation in Rwanda. Olive Ntete reports.
Research conducted in the Bugesera district, such as the Mvura study, aimed to evaluate healing processes and resilience levels within families. The study interviewed 7,481 men and women nationwide, revealing a collaboration and negotiation rate of 87.5%. Additionally, findings indicated high levels of empathy, tolerance and forgiveness at 85%, reflecting progress in fostering understanding among individuals. Hope and spirituality were reported at 82.5%, while emotional awareness and expression stood at 80%.
When we started the discussion, it was hard for me to visit with someone who has imprisoned for genocide crimes. But through this discussion, I was healed. They also supported my family, and I truly thank Interpeace in Rwanda. I want the organization for their support. They are truly good people. They built my family since it was completely broken. I was open to them and managed to speak to Mvura team about the lesson we were undertaking of security and trusting each other. And I asked them, how will this be possible for us to trust each other if we barely listen to each other? And I told them that me and media trees, we have problems, and I was the root cause of the problem.
Petra Marcelius, the Director General of the Living History Forum in Sweden, comments the method employed by these families as remarkable.
I have been very moved by your testimonies, and I have been very impressed with your courage and resilience and open hearts and minds. This is something I really want to bring with me to Stockholm when we fly home tonight. I've also been very impressed by the approach of and resilience. All of those combined, I think, are necessary for lasting peace and for reconciliation. So very impressive.
Kakoma Itonde, president of Interpeace, an international organization dedicated to violence prevention and sustainable peace building for over 30 years globally, including the past 4 years in Rwanda, lauds Rwanda as a beacon of excellence in constructing resilient families and facilitating the healing process.
And there are so many powerful lessons that Rwanda provides in the region, for the continent of Africa, and frankly for the world, in terms of how societies can not only go down to the depths of horrific events amounting to genocide, but also come out of it stronger, bolder, with a clear vision and purpose and sense of direction rooted in resilience.
Among the indicators highlighted with lower scores are critical thinking and decision-making, recorded at 77.5%. Additionally, healing from psychological trauma was reported at the same level of 77.5%. Moreover, self-management and responsibility, as well as the ability to maintain a focus on the present moment, were noted at 75%. Olive Nete, RTV News.
Thank you, Olive. Still on Kibuka 30, on Monday, the Rwandan embassy in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, together with the African Union, Rwandans and friends of Rwanda in that country, gathered to honor victims of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, commemorating its 30th anniversary. Held at the AU headquarters, the ceremony was attended by various officials, diplomats, civil societies, serving as a testament to the enduring spirit of remembrance, resilience and unity. The commemoration started with a walk to remember held at the AU compound, symbolizing the journey of healing and recovery embarked upon by Rwanda after the brutal genocide that claimed the lives of over 1 million innocent people in just 100 days. While addressing the gathering, the ambassador of Rwanda to Ethiopia, Charles Karamba, urged those who participated in the event to put efforts into fighting those who despise the genocide, mostly those who committed the atrocities here in Rwanda back in 1994 and their accomplices, and the need to bring the perpetrators to justice. Moving ahead to health matters, Rwanda says that cooperation with Cuba in the field of health will increase the number of workers in that sector. The two countries have announced that they will restore cooperation aimed at strengthening the health system in Rwanda, as highlighted in the conversation between Rwanda's Prime Minister Dr. Edouard Ngirente and Cuba's Minister of Health Dr. Jose Angel Patol Miranda in Kigali. Cedric Irakoze.
Cuban Health Minister Jose Angel Poto Miranda arrived in Rwanda to represent President Miguel Diaz-Canel at the 13th commemoration of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. Discussions with Rwanda's Prime Minister focused on the relations and the development cooperation between both countries, especially in the field of health, according to the Minister of Health, Dr. Sabin Sanziman.
This cooperation is not going to take care of everything, of course, but we are focusing on the very few important areas of medical care and training where we have very few people. For example, the neurosurgery, where we have only 7 neurosurgeons for the whole Rwanda. This is a number you will see in one hospital in Cuba, this number or even more. So if you have people who are ready to work with you in that sense, ready to come, to train, and even to stay a little bit to follow up and see how we move from one professional per 1,000 people to 4 times, why not 10 times? It's an opportunity to not delay. That's why Cuba is one of the key countries we are looking at, and we already signed an agreement in this field of medical care. It's not the first time. In the aftermath of genocide, they helped Rwanda, sending doctors in partnership with South Africa, as His Excellency the President mentioned it yesterday. So we see this opportunity to restart or to continue again Rwanda-Cuba health partnership as an opportunity to boost our 4x4 initiative.
Rwanda experts resumed this partnership in the near future by increasing the number of medical workers in the next 4 years. The Cuban health minister noted that through the signing of bilateral cooperation agreement, his country is determined in contribute to strengthening Rwanda's health system.
I think partnering in health is a great decision, and I think we can work together for the benefit of both our countries, because we have seen how your government greatly appreciates the development of the health sector and protects the health of its people.
Cuba is known for having a large number of specialist doctors, including those requiring special skills. The country more than 11 million people in terms of its population. The country also helped Rwanda to build the health system that had collapsed after the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. It has a partnership between the medical towns that provided medical care to Rwandan doctors, where partnership was suspended in 2010 and it is going to be resumed again. Cedric Irakoze, RTV News.
To international matters, a Southwest airline flight returned safely to Denver after an engine cover fell off during takeoff on Sunday, the Federal Aviation Administration said, the latest in a spate of safety incidents involving Boeing.
It's another Boeing safety mishap. Southwest Airlines was taking off from Denver when a piece of engine cowling detached itself. These surreal scenes were filmed by passengers on the plane, prompting the pilot to immediately contact the air traffic controllers.
Let's go ahead and declare an emergency for Southwest 3695, and we'd like an immediate return. We got a piece of the engine cowling hanging off, apparently.
The incident occurred Sunday morning. The Boeing aircraft with its 135 passengers was heading for Houston, but after 25 minutes in the air, made a U-turn and landed back down. The FAA announced it would open an investigation into the incident, yet another one on its list of Boeing cases. It's just the latest in a long string of safety failures for the American aviation giant, after a fuselage panel blew out on an Alaska Airlines flight over Oregon in January. Multiple quality control issues triggered the exit of a significant portion of the company's leadership, including CEO Dave Calhoun, who'll be stepping down at the end of the year. Critics say Boeing's once robust culture of safety and engineering mastery has been replaced by short-term profit chasing that has led to too many corners being cut on the production line.
And finally, Israel's Prime Minister says that there will be no ceasefire in Gaza at the 6-month mark of Hamas' deadly attack on that country on October 7th last year. This is as the international pressure builds against Israel concerning the humanitarian toll of its war against the Palestinian military group.
A speeding car tears through a crowd of demonstrators in Tel Aviv calling for the Israeli government to reach a hostage-freeing deal with Hamas. While elsewhere in Tel Aviv, thousands again took to the streets protesting their government and calling for early elections over its inability so far to secure the release of hostages captured on October 7th. It was then, 6 months ago, when the U.S.-designated terror group Hamas and its allies stormed into Israel, killing some 1,200 people and taking hostage more than 250. Israel then declared war on the group, launching air and ground assaults into Gaza, promising to eradicate Hamas. Since then, the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry says Israeli strikes killed more than 33,000 Palestinians. The ministry says another 75,000 humanitarian crisis. Israel has rejected accusations of war crimes. The United Nations says famine remains an imminent threat to Gaza. Just last week, the Israel Defense Forces destroyed a humanitarian aid convoy from the World Central Kitchen, despite the group having coordinated its movements with the Israeli military. The charity's founder, Chef Jose Andres, suspended aid operations in Gaza, calling for the Israeli military to do more to safeguard civilians in an active war zone.
You can be a friend of Israel, and at the same time you can be telling your partner in the Middle East, you cannot be conducting war in such a way. You cannot be destroying every building, every hospital, every school, every university. You cannot be destroying, use the future for decades of more than 2 million Palestinians. And in the process, leaving them hungry, leaving them without water, or what is even worse, you shooting them in the middle of the street in the process of trying to have access to food.
World Central Kitchen and Israel's strategic allies called for an immediate and independent investigation into the strike. Israel dismissed 2 officers in connection with the incident. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the strike tragic, but he remains steadfast in ignoring international calls for a humanitarian ceasefire until Hamas releases all hostages held. Since last week's deadly strike, the White House has said if Israel does not change how it is carrying out its war in Gaza, the U.S. will change its policy toward Israel.
There's going to have to be some changes to the way the Israeli Defense Forces are prosecuting these operations in Gaza to make sure that this doesn't happen again.
Publicly, there remains no plan for an immediate ceasefire, hostage release, or an end to hostilities following more than 180 days of war. Arash Basadi, VOA News.
And VOA's report brings us to the end of tonight's edition, but before stepping out, this is a quick recap of the headlines. President Paul Kagame criticized primitive and ethnic-based politics that lead to instability in the East African region. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa vowed to support peace efforts in the Eastern DR Congo conflict. And to international matters, a Southwest Airlines flight returned safely to Denver after an engine cover fell off during takeoff on Sunday. And that's all from us here at RBA's Rwanda Television News. On behalf of the entire news production as well as the technical team, many thanks for being with us on today's edition. But up until next time, stay safe. And to all Rwandans, tukibuke tukiyubaka.